there, folks, and what time is it? I want to time myself. Yeah, a little past 8:30. Happy Halloween, but not really, because it's actually November 1st. I have been ludicrously occupied this past week, doing a whole lot of job search and stuff, unemployment stuff, training stuff. I've been all wacky busy, and I've also been hanging out with my friend First Order Film, who you might know from my main channel. That would be Player Display, which is linked in the description, of course. And we just hit over 900 subscribers after 3 years, which is really cool. So if you would like to hop on the party and see when we get to the grand 1,000, or just grand, I guess, then you're more than welcome to hop over there. We review action figures, toys, stuff like that. I've done a few collabs with First Order Films before, so yeah, if you want to go check it out, please do after this video. But as for this podcast slash tier ranking, or whatever the hell you want to call it, I don't know why my OneDrive thing is there. I tried moving my face on the screen so that way you'd get a good look at the tier maker. I'm gonna have to push it in so you don't have to look at the browsing bar, or whatever, search bar is usually what they call it. Recently, they had released a new entry in the VHS franchise. That was VHS Halloween. It released early in October, but I put off watching it until this week so I could see it with my pal. And now I have watched it, and I, of course, wanted to do a video about it, but I want to do a little more. I actually wanted to just do a full modern re-ranking of every single segment in the entire franchise, every single movie, except one that was exempt from the viral, which is everyone's favorite. So I just thought it'd be fun to get back into, and I never did it tier list style before. I think I kind of just did a slideshow when I was less tech savvy and I wasn't using OBS, but now it's a more fruitful and pretty experience for you to also enjoy. So whether you choose to listen to it or watch it, I hope you like it. I'm just going to be ranking everything here based on preference. Hold on a second. I added another row. Let me see if I can add it back. Add a row below. Yes, okay. I actually spent a whole lot of time recoloring them and everything, but apparently that went away. I think I reset it, but I'm just going to change that back to F. We're not going to do anything fancy here. It's just standard S to F, so we got S, everything from A to D, and then F, so everything at the top. We're doing this totally subjectively, because objective lists are boring. S tier are the clips, the videos, the tapes, I guess, which are most important to me. These are the ones that are more interesting, I think, a lot more clever, and have just informed me to the point where whenever I think of the VHS franchise, those are the ones that spring to mind. Then we got A, B, C, D, pretty standard crap. I don't know why E doesn't exist in most things, but that drops us right to F. These are the ones that are absolute garbage. Terrible. I've done a lot of videos with this franchise before on my Player Display channel, and I've done a few here on my Nightwatcher 66 channel, so it'd be nice to just do an updated refresh, because even though this is one of my favorite franchises of all time, I think my favorite horror franchise ever, every year my opinions always sway. There are some segments that age like fine wine, there are others that age like milk, and there are others which are pretty baseline. I'm cool with them, but largely indifferent, so I thought it would be cool to go through them again. Not too heavily in depth, we're kind of just going to spitball it, because there are a lot of friggin' segments. I haven't counted them, but there are a lot here. And this goes all the way from Tape 59, the wraparound, or the main framework of VHS 1, all the way to the very last segment of VHS Halloween being Home Haunts. This is a fully up-to-date list, and this also counts the frameworks, so this will make it interesting too. I'll be counting those as their own individual segments, but I might also judge them a little bit more based on how well it loops all the respective segments together within that movie. Not that anyone really cares if you enjoy this franchise. So yeah, I'm not gonna go ahead and explain what VHS is. If you've made it this far, you probably know. If you have no idea, I did a video some time ago that was meant to be a crash course into what the franchise is before you even go ahead and start watching any of these entries. So that being said, I'm gonna go through them in chronological order, and we'll just see where they line up. Again, totally subjective. So that being said, let's start off with Tape 59, the main framework of the very first movie, and the very first movie that I've seen out of all of these. I did see the first 3 chronologically, but once I got to the Years trilogy, as I like to call it, I think it got a little scattered, but the first 3 I do think I saw in order. So that takes us to Tape 59, as I mentioned before. The first movie, yeah, it's got a it's got a reputation, to say the least. It's very brutal towards women, and that is especially showing when you see the later entries in the franchise, which are, I wouldn't say tame, but they more veer away from that theme. And here it works well in terms of, like, if that is something that really does make you uncomfortable, it works. It made me very uncomfortable, so it worked. And Tape 59 is definitely the highlight of that. Like, the first 5 seconds of this franchise, you see these guys running around trying to create these underworld smut films by assaulting women, and it's very hard to watch. And the way that this is framed is they are also tasked with going into this videotape. They go into a videotape. No, they go into a home. They're asked to loot a whole bunch of tapes. But of course, as they do that, they actually want to go ahead and watch the tapes, and that's how it gets all the different segments that we see later on sorted together to create some sort of thread narrative. This becomes less important as the franchise goes on, I think for the better, largely. And the way this is filmed, it's very dark, it's very grainy. It's kind of hard to see who's dying, what's going on, and stuff like that, so it's got a little bit of Aliens vs. Predator Requiem syndrome, where there might be good things visually occurring, going on, but you can't see anything, so it's hard to give it any form of credibility. Sorry, I just realized my mic was angled a little up from a previous meeting from this past week. But anyways, yeah, I've never really cared for this at all. It succeeds really well in setting the gritty tone of everything, so I give it props for that. But as a standalone, in terms of being one story, it's just not what you really remember. I mean, I think you do remember, because it's so bad, the very first opening seconds of the framework, but beyond that, it's just a guy staring at a monitor. He's like, oh shit, that tape was weird. Then he puts another one, he watches it, he's like, oh, that was freaking weird, let me go ahead and put another one. There's nothing bad's happening, might as well just keep watching them. And then everybody just dies slowly over time. So there's really not a lot here, but I will give it some credit in that it did set the tone for the segments that came later, even if Tape 59 in it of itself is very lackluster, to say the least. So I'll give it some props. I'll give it a D tier. I appreciate it enough, but I don't totally hate it, like I do some segments here. Next up, we have Amateur Night. This is a big deal. This is the first true segment that we get in this entire franchise. I do believe if this one segment failed, we might not have gotten a VHS 2, we might not have gotten the Years trilogy, or Beyond on Halloween. Now they're doing kind of a thematic thing, beyond just confining everything within a single year. So it's kind of cool to see how everything within this list jettisoned from Amateur Night, aside from Tape 59. That's kind of an oddball category, right? So I guess I do have to pull it back a little bit, like my experience with VHS, which I've talked about before. I started watching this franchise during a very difficult part of my life. Just graduated from college, living with the folks again, started my first full-time job, which I had just lost in previous months. Again, no fault of my own. It was an office closure, not a big deal, no bad blood. But anyways, during that time, it was really sucky. I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do, who I wanted to be, where I wanted to go. There were so many goddamn questions, and it was a very stressful time. So my mom, who was pretty much my gateway drug into horror, we were going through found footage movies, because we knew of a few, but we didn't know all of them. We just knew that we loved the found footage genre, like Cloverfield, Blair Witch, the classics, right? Paranormal Activity as well. She loves those films. And just on a whim, we, I think on Tubi, the first VHS movie was there. And I was like, alright, we'll give this a try. It's a little scummy, especially with Tape 59 being the kickoff. And then we finally get into our first genuine segment, which is Amateur Night. Again, I'm not going to get too much into detail, because we could sit here for, what, half an hour for each segment, and that's not good. We've done that before. I love Amateur Night. I have a very heavy positive bias towards this short. Again, it continues with the scummy elements of Tape 59, but again, it's within the confines of like a single 20-minute thing, I want to say, maybe 15 minutes. It was very brief. But it had a very important mission to do, which was setting the tone, showing you how an anthology film works, if you've never seen one before, kind of like similar to Trick or Treat. Holidays is another good one. I always forget about that one, but that was also great. And it had to tell a coherent front to back story in that small allotted time frame, and it did an excellent job. I really do think it was fantastic. Because when it get like for 3/4 of it, you're just like, oh, it's just another schlock fair. You're having these douchey college dudes running around and manipulating women, getting them drunk, and I don't want to speak any further on their intended plans there, but you get the picture. And you're like, all right, this is kind of lame. What are we waiting for here? But then, of course, you get Lily, and she is the first monster that we see in this franchise, which is full of really awesome monsters. She's a siren. She got her own standalone film, which is really cool. Don't remember it too well, but it was fine. It was all right. But the shot that sold me on this franchise was the wing. You see that wing when that guy gets taken up into the air. You never see him again. And that's what told me, oh, wait a minute. This franchise has no rules. It can do whatever the hell it wants. It's not just stuck to ghosts. It's not just stuck to being grounded and just focusing on people. You can have monsters. You can have weird glitch monsters. You can have the Ratsman or Ratma, whatever. You can have a bizarre-ass magic show. This segment told me anything can happen. And that's why I love this franchise so much. It's jukebox horror, right? You don't like a segment? The next one you watch will be starting in a few minutes. It might be one of your favorites. If you don't like that one either, the next one might be an old-timer for you, right? It might set a template for what you expect from horror, which I can certainly say about a few of the segments here. Amateur Night is small scale compared to a lot of the ones that we'd see later, but I don't let that bog down what it did in that moment when this was like the only segment within your subconscious for that brief moment. Honestly, I'm going to give this an S tier. I really do love it. And as you noticed, I was choking a little bit on myself, so I'm going to take some water. Not sure how long we're going to be here, but that being said, I hope you're enjoying the ride so far. So, next one we have Second Honeymoon, which, I've seen mixed opinions on, and that can go for a lot of the segments here, and honestly, I think it's a good thing. Like, there might be a segment that I hate, but someone else loves it, and I get to hear about their opinion on why they think it's so good. So that's really what makes this franchise so wonderful. Second Honeymoon, it's in that similar Bandcamp. I actually really like it, for reasons that people might also despise it. This is one of the most grounded segments in the entire franchise, where you got two people vacationing somewhere. I think it was like the Grand Canyon. I don't totally remember. And then you always get these cuts to nighttime where you have this stranger going through their little hotel room, screwing with their shit, taking money, just very petty acts of nothing. But it's still so ominous, and you're not sure what's going to happen. The guy in the morning when they're both awake, he's a total doucher. We hate him a lot. He's got no fans. And then the wacky thing is, the stranger comes back, kills the guy, and I'm like, oh man, what's going to happen to his wife? And then you see that the stranger and the wife are in cahoots or something, and there's a little bit of ambiguity there. How long were they together? Was it for years, months, or just as soon as the couple landed in town? We don't know. And that ends with those hitting lines, which I love. Did you erase it? Like, did you delete the footage? But somehow it wound up in this guy's collection in the wraparound. Whatever. But I think this segment's really great. I really do like it a lot. I like how it doesn't go to extremes. It doesn't get over the top. It really does pull it back. And since it does that, it really makes it one of the most eerie segments out of all of these. I think I could liken it to something similar to The Strangers, a movie that I've never cared about so much. But because this is found footage, it makes it feel a lot more personal, like it could happen to you. With The Strangers, it still felt a little fantastical, like they took some liberties. But this was totally gritty. It absolutely feels like it wouldn't just happen to you on vacation. It could happen to you tonight when you go to bed. That's why it's so effective, right? So I wouldn't say it's my absolute optimal favorite, but I think I'd give it a solid B. I think that works. Next up is Tuesday the 17th. Again, a lot of varying opinions on this one. I've always likened this one to almost going into creepypasta territory, where you have a whole bunch of kids like telling you stories on forums, 4chan Reddit. I don't know, this was a little before my time, when like Slender Man was at his peak, Jeff was at his peak, all that crap, and Siren Head for a brief wink in recent years, but this time it was like a glitch monster, and that was really cool. And it was almost this story of how Wendy, she was our our final girl, but they kind of flipped the script where instead of her trying to just simply survive, she's willing to let others die so she can get one last chance at a stab at this pretty much invincible being. Like, you can trap it for a little while, but it'll get out, a la Jason Voorhees or Michael Myers, right? So I dug this one. Like, I don't think I love the human characters. I think that's one of the big critiques about it. But the core concept is so interesting to me and so fun to watch play out, merging classic 80s slashers with modern creepypasta. That was fun to me. I dug this a lot. And I also watched the Slender Man movie to see what all the hubbub was about. Tuesday the 17th was better than the entire runtime of Slender Man, so I think that says a lot. Again, not perfect. The human characters were not very compelling. I mean, that could be said about most of VHS 1, but I thought the concept was really cool. I'll give this a high B. I'd put it above Second Honeymoon, personally. Next up, the one with the wicked long title, The Sick Thing That Happened to Emily When She Was Younger. This is one where a lot of people really do love this, and for some it's their favorite in the entire movie. For me, it actually might be my least favorite, aside from the framework, though I don't always count it. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just there are other, Zoom set movies I prefer a lot more. Like Unfriended, I actually love. I think that's an excellently done movie. This one, there's nothing wrong with it. I think it's solid. I just think it's just a little bit too ambiguous on what kind of setting we're in. Like, I can't tell if it's aliens, is it witches, is it ghosts. I wish it was a little bit more certain. Like, I love ambiguity. That's what makes a lot of these segments win for me. But for this one, it's just a little too open-ended. But that being said, the way that they played with mental illness in an oddly sincere way in a movie which is otherwise very reckless and falls back on shock value. This one does play it out in a way where you do feel really bad for Emily, what she's going through, the gaslighting themes and all of that. But again, it kind of gets bogged down because then you just get this wackadoo, like, again, I think it's aliens. It might also be ghosts. Alien ghosts. Is that a thing? So where it does succeed, there's something else that usurps it and kind of drowns it out for me. So it's hard to focus on the really good elements of the segment, which are certainly there, but they ultimately just get a little muddied. So, yeah, solid C. It's by no means bad. It's not the worst. It's just not quite my preference, but it is good. It's fine. There's nothing wrong with it at all. Then we get to 10/31/1998. That gets cut off, but I think I memorized the titles of all these. It actually gets cut off for a lot of them here, but we'll roll with the punches. Those are my buddies, excuse them, I can get back to them later. This is the last segment of VHS 1, another fan favorite. I'm going to be quick on this one. I don't mind it. It's good. It's solid. You have a whole bunch of college dudes. Actually, the only decent human beings in the whole movie. They go to a haunted house for a party, and they think they're in the wrong place, but then they assume it's a spook territory, kind of like the very last segment in the very last movie that we're going to talk about. And then it's actually, there's like an exorcism going on in the attic. They try saving the girl, but she winds up being possessed, and then the demon kills them with the train, and then cut to the end with some kick-ass punk music. Again, I think this is a solid C tier for me. I feel really neither way about it, but I like it. It's good. There's nothing wrong with it. It's solid. And the really campy CGI does add to some charm, so I do like that as well. I would put this above Sick Thing, easily. That's why I call it shorthand, as I have in the past. So that takes us to VHS 2. This is the wraparound tape. Damn, why is the font so small? It's wraparound tape 49, 45, I don't remember, but this one's definitely better than the wraparound from VHS 1. That was 59. Because, well, it got rid of the scummy aspects. For the most part, the guy was filming a little bit of smut towards the beginning. I don't know why. Because his curiosity was piqued as he was passing by that motel window, whatever. But then it was him and his lover, I don't know if his girlfriend or his wife, I wasn't too sure, but they were like agents of some sort, and they were just watching this, they're watching all the tapes that you see later on in the film, but you also see this guy who's like talking about collecting all these tapes for some reason, we don't know why, and then towards the end you realize that it was actually his path to immortality, but at a great cost. And because the female lead within this wraparound, she watched all the tapes too. She also gets all creepy and weird and spider-like. Still would, but that's the consequence of watching these tapes. And that being said, I think this might be my favorite framework of all of them. I mean, that might be a hot take. This is the only time where we get a framework that, my god, what is going on with my phone? I was trying to link all the segments in the movie together. And it does so in a successful way. There's meaning to them. In the first one, it was just, oh, go get the tapes. And then everyone dies. I mean, you don't really get a concise explanation as to why. Here, there is such good payoff. You're like, okay, we have these tapes again. Why are these so important? Why are so many people after them? And then you see this guy, he's unkillable. And then that trickles down into the woman, and then she kills her husband. No, she doesn't do that. No, he destroys her after she gets all possessed and weird. If even that, maybe she just crawled away later, like after the footage cut. But there was that reward, right? That we know what these tapes are for. We know why people are going after them. I don't remember repeating myself, but I thought this one was good. It's a framework, so it gets a little bogged down. I definitely don't like the frameworks as much as I love the individual segments. And the frameworks have a disadvantage in that they're broken up, right? They're interrupted all the time. So that's difficult. But I do give this one props in that it is consistent. There is a story going on here, I feel like, that's multi-dimensional. You are a little more concerned about these characters because they're not total dirtbags, so that helps as well. So that being said, it's solid. I would give this a low B tier, honestly. So I ain't anything to cry about. I think it's a good wraparound. Might be my favorite, if not equal with other very strong wraparounds that we'll get back to later. Next up is the first segment of this movie, which is Phase 1 clinical trials. Again, a lot of people love this one. I don't. I have such mixed feelings on it. I think the core concept is so cool. This is a video game idea, where you got a guy who's got like an ocular implant, but there's something weird about it where it allows him to see the paranormal. Couldn't you think about playing a budget video game that's like a 6-hour stretch, and you play as a protagonist who can see ghosts that no one else can, and he's solving mysteries, maybe he's a detective? That is such an interesting idea, but they do nothing with it. There's a chick that comes over, and her ghost uncle apparates. He says, oh yeah, I gotta bone you in order to get rid of him. He wakes up, she's dead at the bottom of a hot tub. And then all the ghosts are kind of like sieging him into his bathroom. He cuts out the eye, and they feed the eye to him, and maybe he lived, I don't know. It really shot the bed with third act, is the best way to say it, but first act, even second act, were pretty damn good and were very enticing, but as soon as the ghost uncle showed up, that's really where it fell flat. I think that's exactly what I said the last time we talked about these movies. So yeah, I hate to do it, but admirable concept, but I do have to put this low. Not F, because it's a good idea. It's just, it floundered when trying to figure out what to do with it. But I would put this above Tape 59. There's still some more value to be taken from it. Ride in the Park is a lot of fun. Again, you can do anything you want with this franchise. This is the first time we get zombies, I want to say. Yeah, unless you call the weird, freaky people from the wraparound of this movie to be zombies. I wouldn't say so, though. But this is like traditional George A. Romero zombies. Also likened it to Return of the Living Dead, which I also watched this past week, because First Order Films has never seen it herself, and she loved it. So, this really gave me those vibes. And this also might have been the first one to have a very solid comedic edge. That was really cool. And of course, this is from the zombie POV, which is a ton of fun. And still, you get that moment of sincerity at the end. Again, very Romero, where a zombie is kind of humanized. You don't see that a ton. Where he pulls up his phone, you hear his girlfriend at the other end, like hoping that he gets back, and that little bit of humanity kind of creeps back, and he blows himself away, and you feel bad for him at the end of this, as many yucks as you might have had throughout, like, not yucks as in ew, gross, which might be true, but yucks as in guffaws, laughs, because it is a funny segment for the most part, so, at least for me. I dig this one a lot. Yeah, I'd give this an A. I'd give this a solid A. Not absolute game changer for me, but I love this one a lot. I think it's really great. Speaking of really great, Safe Haven. Pretty much, it's interesting because there's so much variance as to what people prefer, what people don't prefer, their mileage and all that. Almost unanimously across the board, no matter who you talk to, almost everyone's going to say Safe Haven is their absolute favorite piece de resistance, the best in the entire franchise, hands down, uncontestable, and that is totally well warranted. It is well produced, great slow burn. It earns the what the fuckery that occurs in the second and third acts. Things are going wrong with this like Jonestown-ish sort of underground cult. You just don't know what it's going to be. And then it slowly ramps up, it gets weirder and weirder and more bizarre, but it's not so sudden that it kills off the grounded nature that it started with. Like, I think the issue with Sick Thing from VHS1 is that it went too hard too quick and it threw too many ideas into the hat at the same time. Safe Haven, it allows you to observe one article of this script at a time, where you've got the kids in the classroom, like, oh boy, are they gonna drink the punch, which of course they do, and then you hear the thing about the pregnancy and all of that, so it's just nice at allowing you to focus on one element at a time before moving on to the next. I just feel like the pacing was better. Granted, it's longer, and it's one of the longest segments in the franchise, I believe. But ultimately, it's just a better package, at least from my perspective. But yeah, it's effectively a perfect segment. There's nothing I change about it. My only problem with it is there is a lot going on. I prefer things that are just a little more focused, kill your darlings a bit, right? So I wouldn't necessarily put it in S tier for me, but it's awesome. It's great. Chef's kiss. I would put this above Ride in the Park, but it's not quite my absolute super favorite, right? Like Amateur Night would be. And Amateur Night will probably be joined by others as we go. And you could say that Safe Haven is objectively better than Amateur Night. You'd be right. Again, I just prefer a more concise, limited package, which I think is a fair thing to say. Next, last of VHS2, we have Slumber Party Alien Abduction. I never loved this one. It's interesting enough, but I just think it moves too fast, too quickly, which is the point. I mean, it's to show the urgency and the immediacy of this alien incursion on this little group of shitlord buddies, and you got the older sister and her boyfriend. That is one thing I do like about it, where you've got a whole bunch of, people in a house, parents are gone, just a bunch of little ruffian kids, and you got some, I don't know if they're college age, high school age, I don't really know, but, there's that clear age gap, and they're constantly fighting each other, trying to one-up each other, messing with each other, but as soon as shit hits the fan, and all of them go look at each other and go, holy shit, there's something bad going on out there, all of them become a team, and they all try to help each other out. So upon rewatches, I did come to appreciate this segment a lot more from that regard. But oh man, it really loses points when they kill the poor dog. That makes things really difficult. When you lose Tank, man, that makes it difficult. Maybe he did die. Maybe he was just whimpering a bit. Maybe he shook it off, healed for a while, found some treats that were unattended to, and he was okay. I don't know. We don't know. But again, that killer ambiguity. Yeah, it's not a favorite of mine, but for me, it's just a pacing thing. But I get why it's working at such a breakneck pace. Pardon me. So I'll give this a C. I'd say I'd put it above Sick Thing. Again, nothing wrong with Sick Thing. It's just I don't love it. Slumber Party, again, I come to appreciate it a little more upon rewatching. But Sick Thing, it's kind of just standard for me. It's never really gone up or down for all the years I've known about this franchise. Oh no, here we are at Viral. Easily the worst movie in the entire franchise. I don't think anyone has had a hot take on that. Any fan of this franchise has said VHS Viral is the worst. I really don't know what happened here. It is utter shit. I really don't have an answer to that. It's just terrible. Totally awful. Vicious Circles, I'm dropping that right now. We barely need to talk about it. Again, moving way too fast. There's barely a story. The story that it tries to tell is not satisfying at all. There's no focus. There's no characters, really. The few who are there, they suck. They're horrible. They're the least sympathetic, and you want them to go out as soon as possible. There's nothing good about it. I have nothing good to say about it. It's terrible. The total antithesis of the framework we saw in VHS 2. So that being said, it only had 3 segments, the least segments of any of these movies, right? Unless Halloween had less? I didn't think so. No, that one had 5. Wow, that's impressive. Well, 4 if you exclude the wraparound. So anyways, Dante the Great. This one's interesting because I think this would be a great movie, but it's a terrible VHS segment, right? Like, it's well produced enough. And the directing style, it's an acquired taste. I don't like how it hops between documentary to found footage. That throws me off. There's also some continuity errors in when the action's happening. There's cameras recording it. Like, are these cameras floating around, like Chronicle style? Like, in that case, it made sense because the apex predator of that movie, Dane DeHaan, he wanted people to see him, to see how dangerous he was. But I don't think Dante the Great had levitating powers or was able to have all these cameras surrounding him. Would he want to be doing that in that moment? So there are just genuine continuity errors in this movie. And that's just not found footage. Sorry, not movie segment, but you could have complaints about every single segment in this movie, honestly. But yeah, again, interesting story, fun enough. I don't think you need to make a Houdini's cloak. It could just be a cloak. I think that would be a lot better. If they really did just confine this to sticking to the VHS found footage style, it could have been a lot better. Maybe one of the best segments that we've seen. But yeah, it's just such a black sheep in that it's a good idea. It's just not good for this franchise. So it really is odd. But that being said, I do think there is decent payoff where you see Dante die, his assistant dies, but I mean, there's no happy endings in any of these segments, I don't think. So it is a tricky one. Yeah, I'd give it a D. Part of me was thinking C, and I wouldn't give it an F. I don't totally hate it. I still give it props, because they tried doing something different at least. It just didn't fit the formula. I'd say between Phase 1 clinical trials and Tape 59. Tape 59 has very little good about it. Phase 1 had a very good concept. Dante the Great, I think it's a mean between extremes in that regard. Next up we have Parallel Monsters. Again, good concept. It's just, it bit off so much more that it could chew. It was very over the top. I think the idea was solid, where you go to another dimension, you find a demonic topsy-turvy version of your world, but it was so heavy-handed, where it had that freaking blimp with, I think, the upside-down cross. They have the giant dick monsters. It just did too much. It hammered the message into your head really hard, a little too early on, and for that reason, really bogged itself down. So, yeah, for that reason, I'll also give it a D tier. I think it's objectively better than Dante the Great, but I think I like the idea of Dante more. I just think that's a better concept. But this one was hammering it in so hard, it was just hard to admire any interesting elements that it had. But again, still above Tape 59. Bone Storm. This, I think, is my least favorite segment of all of them, of all the movies. Again, excluding Framework, so Vicious Circles is still the worst thing ever. But Bone Storm is my least favorite one-off segment. For me, it's simple. It boils down to the way it's filmed. I think there's too much shaky cam. I know that's a most major criticism of the found footage genre as a whole. I mean, especially with Cloverfield and Blair Witch, the two of the pinnacles of the genre. But Bone Storm, it's so much shaky cam. The characters suck. I think I said at one point, if you close your eyes and just listen to them talking, you wouldn't be able to tell who's who. They sound the same, they act the same, you don't care about who they are, really. Again, breakneck pace for the plot. Not that the plot's all that interesting. The makeup, it's hokey, but I guess I've come around to that a little bit. It's kind of goofy and fun, so I've let that slide a little bit in recent years. But ultimately, I dread watching it. I mean, I dread watching Viral in its entirety, but Bone Storm, I kind of just gotta glance away, because it's so overly flashy and loud and annoying, and there's very little substance. The only good thing I have to say about it is the zombie makeup, and that's simply because I found it hokey and goofy in retrospect. That's like a so bad it's good thing. So that shouldn't count, right? The rest of it is trying to be played straight, and it fails at that. So this is definitely enough for me, but not nearly as bad as Vicious Circles. honestly, if there was a tier lower than F, I'd put Vicious Circles in there. So yeah, it sucks. Let me take another drink of water here before you move on to 94, which is very, very good. So just a minute here. Thank you. I appreciate that. So, 94. Oh, this framework's terrible. Also, holy hell. Again, it makes a valiant attempt to link all the videotapes together, and it boils down to these two chicks being left in this little military brigade, this squad, and they have this, like, super kooky supervillain scheme of, like, collecting all the videotapes, doing something to the world, kind of similar to what they did to Viral. It's almost like this weird love child between the frameworks of VHS 2 and Viral, where 2 wanted to, both of them wanted to string together all their respective segments in a cohesive way. So, like, people want these tapes, right? But it's like the narrative of 2 with the quality of Viral. So, it ultimately craps a bed and it just leaves a bad impression. There's really nothing about this. It's kind of just blah to me. So, I'd give it a D for making no real impression at all. No positive impression. Very skippable. I'd put it below Dante the Great because Dante at least had a better concept, even though it's not great as a VHS segment, but it's good as a standalone thing. I really just don't like Parallel Monsters, though. But yeah, I feel absolutely nothing for Holy Hell. I'd put it below Tape 59, because at least Tape 59 was able to set a mood. Holy Hell, I don't think it even did that. It felt very dry. It just felt like generic military movie at the beginning, and that's not too exciting to me. Like Child's Play 3, right? I don't care. It's not a good horror setting. Maybe it could be, but here, definitely not. Another fan favorite, and one of my favorites as well, Storm Drain. Some people have put this at the very top. I would not take that away from them. It's a very great segment. Again, kind of diving into cryptids, creepypastas. You have the Ratman, or Ratma, of course, as he is canonically called. I think we've all agreed on that. I have very little to say about it because it is just a solid segment. Keeps self-grounded, adds a little bit of the fantastical, but doesn't overdo it. Again, maintains that ambiguity that keeps you wondering a little bit. As an over-the-top, wacky, earned ending that's highly satisfying with really good practical effects. The Ratman, or Ratma himself, beautiful practical makeup, excellent, gruesome, bizarre, overstimulating. It's awesome all around. At the least, it's got to be an A. You know what? I'll give it an S tier. I wouldn't quite put it above Amateur Night just because Amateur Night had such an impact on me. But Storm Drain is still a very strong segment. Absolutely. There's nothing wrong with it. There's nothing I'd change. Yeah, for sure. That being said, I think I like Empty Wake more. Again, it taps into the zombies again, right? But it's very Romero. Again, it's very, pulls it back, it doesn't go to extremes. It's very quiet, it's a slow burn. It feels like a mystery novel or something like that. It feels like it could be written down and you could get just as much enjoyment out of it. But still, it leans into the gore towards the end, that suspenseful element. And then it has a dreary, creepy ending where, was this all an experiment? Was this all planned? Was this woman being thrown to the wolves at minute 1? That's my theory, that all this was meant to happen. It was kind of preordained. But then something went awry, there was a storm, and she managed to scramble out of there. So I like that a lot. I do think I like this more than Storm Drain. This is an S tier for me. I think it is also a perfect segment. It's a perfect balance between the fantastical and the grounded. It has a little bit of ambiguity in there to keep you wondering, instead of just doing a case closed and you don't have to think about it anymore. I think a lot of these segments shoot themselves in the foot by giving you a concrete ending, and there's just nothing to think about, as good as the segment was. So that's where I drop that, I'd say. Yeah, I know I have a lot of S tiers, but seriously, I think all these are great. Really, really, I do. And then we have The Subject. This is another foreign one. I forgot to mention there's a lot of really great foreign segments throughout this, like Safe Haven. I mean, it wasn't great, but Parallel Monsters all as well. And then the subject was our third, I believe. And this one is a feast for the eyes. Again, it's kind of a similar philosophy for me with Safe Haven, where it's definitely great, and there's definitely nothing wrong with it. It's just there's a lot. There's a lot for me. So there's not really that focus. But again, there's nothing wrong with the segment itself because of that. It's just a preference thing. It's an excellent segment. Maybe I dialed down the action a little bit. It starts to feel too much like Doom at a point, which is fun, but it gets rid of that harrowing existential dread that it built up before. So tonally, I think it's a little inconsistent and certainly weaker than Safe Haven. Which would I prefer? I really do keep them on par with each other, and not just because they're both foreign. I really just do think they're of the same quality. I think they're both very strong. I'd say I'd put this one between Safe Haven and Ride in the Park. I do think Subject is more enjoyable to watch for me than Ride in the Park, but all three of these really are great. And this is what makes 94 weird for me. I think I mentioned this previously, where there's a point in the movie where I can just turn it off and I'm happy, and that's right where the subject ends, because I do not like terror at all, and as I've said before, I do not like the framework at all. I know people really love terror, but for me, it just felt like kind of budget The Thing. I don't even like The Thing that much. It's great, and the visual effects are amazing, it's just not a favorite of mine. But terror, it's just really annoying how you have that redundant alarm bell. I have issues with loud, repeated sounds like that. It's just a me thing. Again, it just makes me uncomfortable. Not like I get scared or anything, I just feel pain, like actual psychological, like, it hurts, I don't like it. Yeah, it's just, it's kind of a slog to get through. The ending, not really much of a payoff, at least for me, although the monster is well done. There's very few monsters in this franchise that are poorly done, I'd say. So it had a good design towards the end, but yeah, it's just an uncomfortable watch. Again, not because of the subject matter or anything, it's just loud, it's abrasive, which I guess is the point, but for me, I do not like watching it. So I'm gonna have to give this a D fringe, even though I know people really do like terror, but for me, I don't really want anything to do with it. I don't enjoy rewatching it. I'd comfortably put this between Parallel Monsters and Tape 59. That's alright for me. Shredding. So now we're in 99, which is one of my favorite movies holistically of all of them. I know it's not really a lot of people's jam, but for me, I was born in 99, gives me a little look into an era that I just barely missed out on, so it's kind of cool for me. I really do love Shredding. Again, this is a lot of people's shit lists. I think this one's great. Not perfect, of course, but I really do like it. The thing is, it really comes down to this, and a few other good qualities too. It's, as a horror fan, it's very, very hard to scare me. It takes a lot. You gotta do something very special and very weird. And I'm not just saying, like, overstimulate me or do something wacky and over the top. I mean, it's gotta be a concise idea or a concept, right? And for me, one of the things that does scare me is coming up with a fate that's worse than death. I could think of two in this franchise that do really stand out, and the first one is in Shredding, where you're forced to I always joke about dance till you're dead. Heads will roll in my player display channel, but here literally you're dancing after you're dead for all eternity, for all we know. And for me, it was like that dread of like, wait, so the rack band, like, are they conscious that their bodies are still being puppeteered around by Bitch Cat? Like, do they know? Like, that's frightening to me. that ending really got me the first time I saw that segment, and I thought it was so cool. And also, I also like in Shredding to being like a modern witch story, where Bitch Cat almost is like its own coven. They have this pact with each other, play or die, right? So they're going to do whatever they can to be sure that they play forever. And I think that's a really fun merge between... This is an interesting merge between zombies, witches, I don't know, it's just a lot of cool things, and punks too, and I like the punk aesthetic as well, so I thought that was a whole lot of fun. Rack sucks. The whole band is total garbage, pun not intended, because garbage is a band, but then except for Anker, who is wonderful and he shouldn't have died. But yeah, the rest of the band does get good comeuppance. It's deserved. I really, really like this one. However, I'm not sure I'd put it on an S tier anymore, but I am willing to give it an A tier, definitely above Ride in the Park. Just in that it's a better amalgamation of a whole lot of things without doing too much. I do like it more than The Subject. I might like it more than Safe Haven, which is certainly a hot take, and I'm aware of that. Yeah, I do prefer Shredding over Safe Haven. I'm not gonna kid myself. Again, subjectivity, this is okay, right? I'm not sure if I have any crazy hot takes yet. This is pretty standard stuff. Suicide Bid is also a very good one. Again, keeps things pretty on the down low. Doesn't do anything too ridiculous. Although I do think it shoots itself in the foot with the very, very last 5 seconds. I've said that before, where Lily V2, the first Lily was in the very first segment in VHS 1. This is a new Lily. She comes back undead because of Guillotine's powers that be. But my issue there is, like, she says, Guillotine said if I get her sorority sister, she'll let me go or give me power or whatever. So that was not only an exposition dump, but it was also a cop-out. I feel like there was a better... I feel like it was obviously tell, don't show. So that was a problem as well. But everything before that I thought was very good. So would I give it a huge fault for that one schlubby ending? Not really. I wouldn't bring it down too much. I used to bring this one down a lot because of that ending, but everything else is really good. So I'd say, Tuesday the 17th. I do think I like Suicide Bid more than Tuesday the 17th. More than Second Honeymoon. I'm cutting it some slack these days, again, because I'm giving the ending a pass. Yeah, I'd give it a high B. That seems proper to my liking. Ozzy's Dungeon is a wild ride. Obviously an homage to, like, Nickelodeon. Game shows that I've seen growing up, like even on Cartoon Network when they tried doing, like, real-world reality stuff for a brief window there, it was just never successful. So even I got some nostalgia for this, even though I wasn't truly a 90s kid. Again, does 99 count? Let me know in the comments what you think. But this one's a tour de force. Again, you got that fun kids show, then you got that gritty, disgusting version of it with the fecal matter and all that, the shit, let's just be clear and concise. And then you get into the mythical and bizarre when you finally see the titular Ozzy itself. I don't think it's human. But that's the thing. You don't know what the hell it is. Is it an alien? Is it a demon? We don't really know. But this one's a blast. I definitely love watching it. I love every moment of it. I'm not like one of those people who's grossed out by shit for some reason. I'm like, oh, well, gross. That's unfortunate. But I don't, like, get guttural or anything like that. For me, it's actually snot. Snot's my thing. That I do not want anything to do with. Like the ending of Safe Haven, I really hate because of that snot. As CGI'd as it is. Is it? No, it might be practical. I'm not sure. But yeah, Ozzy's Dungeon's a great one. It's a long one, so I don't want to talk about that for too long. But this one's up there for me. I'd give this... Yeah, I'd peg it down a little bit because I do think it overstays its welcome just by a hair, but I do think it is a lot of fun. It's a gas. I put this above Suicide Bid pretty easy. Not quite A tier though. Gawkers, yeah, this is one... Oh, and this is also a framework and a segment, which is a little odd. This one is one of those ones that is severely aged worse the more I've watched it. Yeah, it's just kind of... Here it is, right? There's nothing very cutting edge about it. Again, I kind of mentioned before, if you leave no space for ambiguity for the viewer, then there's little reason to go back to that segment. And this is one of those ones where you have the titular Gawkers looking at this new neighborhood lady across the street, and she turns out to be a Gorgon. She turns them to stone, and then she turns the camera to stone. It was a weird ending. Yeah, because it's so conclusory, it retroactively makes itself worse because it's so open and shut. And also, yeah, the antics of the boys. I found that amusing at first, when I first watched 99, but now I'm just like, alright, shut up, we don't really care. It kind of brings back vibes of the lesser elements of VHS 1. So this one's definitely gone down. I don't know, would I call this an average segment? It's not average, it's a mediocre. It's like, I'd say a low C, if not a high D. It's not bad, it's just kind of lame-o, right? So, and then we have Sick Thing. Yeah, this one falls more in the negative for me. Sick Thing is just fine, but Gawker's is more on the negative side. So yeah, you know what? I'd put this... I do like the concept of Phase 1 better. I'd say I actually like Dante more than Gawker's. Parallel monsters, I really am not a fan of. Yeah, I guess we'll use Gawker's as like the neutral ground, more or less, of the negative ones. To Hell and Back is so much fun. When I was introducing first order films to the franchise, I specifically started with 99 because I knew she'd want some humor. And To Hell and Back is her favorite. And it's one of my favorites too. I think it's a ton of fun. Not quite S tier, but I just love how it's like this dude bro story of two guys just going to hell, and there's all this wackadoo insanity. This is one of those ones where it's okay. Go over the top, have fun, do all the wacky visual stuff. They apparently filmed on location, which is wild to me. I can't believe they pulled that off. And it worked. It worked so well. And again, there is payoff with Mabel in the end credits too. If you missed that, the witches in the segment start chanting her name, so you're wondering if she's going to come back. I'd love if one of these future movies brought back a segment about her. I don't think anyone would complain. She's a fan favorite. Yeah, I love To Hell and Back a lot. I'm not going to go on that one too much. I like Shredding more. I might... Damn, it's tough. Definitely more than Ride in the Park. Say maybe more than Subject. Perhaps not quite. It's right on par with Safe Haven for me, because they're both so great at what they're trying to do. Damn, man. yeah, I'd say I like To Hell and Back more. I don't want to kid myself, right? Okay, total copy. Yeah, we're at VHS 85. I think this is the first one that I saw when it released, so this was a kind of a turning point for me. And 85 as a whole, I do think it has gone a little down for me in terms of how much I prefer it, but it still has some good moments in it, so I wouldn't give it some shit. But total copy, so this is the point in the franchise where they kind of totally surrender using the wraparound to tie together all the tapes. They did it well once, they did it horribly twice. I'd argue 3 times if you tie in 94. So it's just something that was not really working overall, except for VHS 2. So at this point, total copy and future wraparounds or frameworks, whatever you like to call it, they're just their individual stories, which is totally fine. And that also includes Gawker's, but I didn't really like that one. Total copy was kind of cool. Again, fate, worse than death sort of thing at the end, where you have that alien Rory, and the only thing it learned after all these tests was the aerobics 80s crap. It's just forcing these bodies to keep doing those redundant movements for who knows how long, forever, eternity, we don't know. I mean, if the tape was recovered, then maybe we do, but yeah. Total copy I liked. Solid all around, no issues with it. Gets into the really wacky and over the top towards the very, very end, but it's earned, and it feels good, and it's creepy and weird and bizarre, and I dig that. So, I'd say average. I'd say high C for me. More than 10/31/98. Yeah. Good. Okay. Now we have this one I don't feel right about. This is one of those things that makes 85 such an oddity, because 2 of these segments actually flow directly into each other. Cool idea, except it dupes us out of getting an individual story that's independent of all the other ones. It has a distinct front to back, right? No Wake and Ambrosia inform each other, therefore they're part of one single story, just divided across 2 segments. So, over time, I've come to prefer that less, but I appreciate that they gave it a go, even though I don't think it really works in retrospect. Because I do feel differently about both segments. No Wake is horrifying. That was genuinely scary. That, like, talk about a way to frighten me at the start of a new movie in VHS. That was really intimidating. The idea of being on a boat in the middle of the water, there's just this gunman or woman out there somewhere picking off your friends, and there's nowhere you can go. You can't really hop out and swim. What do you do? Talk about new fear unlocked, right? That's scary. And then you learn about the immortality water and whatever, and then they're like, okay, they're not really one piece, but they're alive, more or less. And that also lends to this weird mystery nature to it, which is also really cool. So No Wake I definitely like more than Ambrosia, but that's still a good one too. Or Ambrosia, I don't know, it's a weird word. I actually don't know what that means. But they learn about the Seven Cult. They were responsible for picking off these people in the boat before. This was Ruth's initiation, kind of her quinceanera, I like to liken it to. Her rite of passage. And the comeuppance is that she gets sprayed with the immortality water from Lake Evik, I guess it's called earlier. She is immortal, and as a result of that, the irony is she can't honor her family's tradition because she can't die. So that works. Good poetry there. But again, it's kind of too conclusive, right? I like the ambiguity of No Wake more than whatever Ambrosia was doing. So yeah, this is a weird one. I'd give it a solid C because these are being lumped together. So considering it as a whole and the shortcomings that it has because they are considered one thing, definitely above Slumber Party. You know what? Yeah, I'd put it above Total Copy, actually. I'd put it that in the high C for now. But if I were to separate them, I'd say No Wake would get a high B or a low A. And Ambrosia would probably get a high C. I think that's where they would go. Techno God is it's an acquired taste. Some people do like the weirdness about it, but it's not for me. Again, it's performance art, which is inherently supposed to be alienating. You got someone going into the virtual world. You got the dude playing around with the iPhones. Little sidebar, if you want to learn more about these movies or any horror movies, definitely check out Dead Meat. They give you a lot of really good trivia with their kill counts on YouTube. Very easy to find, of course. I couldn't recommend those videos more. They're great. Very informative, but one of the things I learned about this is there actually was a dude before Steve Jobs who tried creating a virtual reality thing called the iPhone back in the 80s. So that is actually based in reality. But even then, it's still this culture clash because we know what an iPhone became versus what it could have been. So that even though it's based in real world history, it's just defies what we already knew, not in a good way. It's an odd one. I don't hate it. I definitely don't hate it. It's just weird and a slog to get through. The visual effects at the end are cool, where you just got the two eyeballs poking out, but then the crowd starts applauding, and you don't really know why. It's odd. It's definitely bizarre, but more captivating than the ones that are just outright, I don't want to watch this, right? It's like, okay, fine, I'll watch it. It's not a big deal. I'd say below Parallel Monsters and above Terror. Because I don't hate Techno God, I appreciate it. Terror, I'm just like, I don't want to watch this. Techno God's like, fine. Parallel Monsters, I'm like, interesting concept. Alright, let's do it. But yeah, moving on. Dreamkill, another one that kind of hiccups up and down for me. One thing that makes this interesting, again, I've said this, is it is canonical with Black Phone, because it was directed by the same people, which is very cool, same creators. So I do like that idea. I do think it is way more gruesome than it needs to be. It sells the idea, POV from the serial killer. It's effective, it works, but I think, and this is coming from me, I think this is overly indulgent. I don't think we need to be in the killer's shoes. I mean, I guess it's interesting that we're getting it in this way. I think the last time I've ever seen it is the Elijah Wood remake of Maniac, which I watched a lot in my youth. I don't know how I feel about that. But yeah, I think Dreamkill was too much. It didn't need to go that far. But that being said, the story was compelling. It was kind of a whodunit, but it kind of fell flat because there's only really 3 characters in the entire narrative. So it's just okay. I appreciate what it did. Oh, you know, the worst thing about it is during that final hallway massacre, which kind of felt very Terminator to me, we're seeing this guy blow all these cops to pieces, but what camera is following him? You know, this guy definitely doesn't have supernatural powers like Dante the Great might have. There's no way this guy just has a levitating camera following him around. So yeah, this one also has continuity problems. And I'm sure a lot of the segments I praise also have those as well. But in this one, it's definitely unforgivable. It makes no sense. There's no way to wrap your head around that. So yeah, Dreamkill is not one of my favorites. It's well produced, of course. But I don't really prefer to watch it. So I'd say, yeah, Sick Thing is totally neutral for me. Dreamkill, I think, is better. I think it's going to be C tier for me. I really just don't love it. It's good. It's just I don't prefer it. I think I prefer 103198 above it by a slim margin. Yeah, I prefer it more than Slumber Party, Alien Abduction, which again, long-ass title. Then we have God of Death. Wait a minute. That's also in 85. That one, didn't that happen earlier? Yeah, that happened before Dreamkill. So that's a little out of order. That's okay. God of Death, again, mixed feelings on this one. Kind of same feelings with No Wake from the No Wake Ambrosia 2-pack that we just talked about, where it has a really gritty and real opening, but then it leads into the fantastical. For No Wake, I thought it worked better. For here, it kind of lost me, because actually, I would have been totally cool if this one just focused on being a disaster story, found footage style, where you have this news crew survive this actual real world earthquake that happened, this tremor, and they're trying to just survive and get out of there, and you're wondering if they're going to be okay. I think it would have been harder enough just to see people trying to climb through all this rubble in pitch black, and you know, like crap's falling on their friends, they got pinned under a rock because of their leg is pinned down. Oh god, that was the worst sentence I've ever articulated, but you get what I mean. And then there's like ethical decisions or you leave behind, stuff like that. That would have been terrifying, but I would have really appreciated the franchise for keeping it that grounded and mellow, you know? Well, not mellow, but, you know, just flatline. This is what you get. This is the scary part. The fact that you could be trapped because of some cataclysmic event you could not predict or prepare for. That's horrifying enough on its own. But then they find these ruins for this ancient deity, and then ladies getting naked, dudes taking his guts out. Great opening half. Last half, I tap out completely. But again, it's not bad. It's just a preference thing, really. So I'd go ahead and give this a low C. It doesn't totally shoot itself in the foot. Yeah, above Sick Thing. I'm really just not a fan of Sick Thing. Above Slumber Party. I'd keep Dreamkill above it. Yeah. Then we have the, what's this? Abduction. That's right. Now we're moving into Beyond. And again, I saw this last year when it first debuted with First Order Films as well. This framework's okay. It's kind of talking about the philosophies and intricacies of, you know, the credibility of footage regarding aliens, extraterrestrials, perhaps the paranormal in certain breaths. It was intriguing enough. I like what they were trying to do. But the only time where it's got your real attention is when you finally see tapes 1 and 2. You see this alien going into this dude's room, shoves the camera down his throat, and then it cuts to black. So I didn't really feel like there was that payoff. Except for the end credits music. It saved itself with that. But otherwise, I just didn't really feel any which way about it. It's kind of just filler. In a movie, which otherwise has pretty damn consistent segments, I will say. So, Abduction, it's just fine. I think it's weaker. One of the weaker frameworks, but that's not saying much because some of them were genuine crap. I'd say above Sick Thing. Above Slumber Party. Yeah, below God of Death, because the opening of God of Death is so good, right? I like that a lot. But Abduction's kind of just, alright, fine, right? Stork, wow. Yeah, that one throws you right into action, and I don't hate it. At first, I was thrown off, but upon rewatching, I'm like, hey, you know what? This is fun. This is cool. It feels like a boss battle of some sort. Like you've been leveling up, and this house is like a lower tier boss that you encounter with the stork in the attic and stuff like that. It's all this wagadoo zombie stuff. You can call them zombies, or their brains are sucked out, so maybe it's so weird. And they got the kid thing, a lot of sensory overload, but the good kind. I think this one's a lot of fun. I don't think about this one enough because I do believe it is very good. I would drop this in B. It hasn't impacted me like any of the A tiers quite as much, but I do like it a lot. Not as much as Ozzy's Dungeon. I do like it more than Suicide Bid, though, because I think Stork is consistent all the way through, whereas Suicide Bid, again, it slumps in the last 5 seconds. Dream Girl is really cool. Another really awesome 4-in-1 with the Bollywood segment. No one was expecting it, but everyone was here for it. It was really fun. A little bit of AI commentary, which is kind of cool. I did appreciate that. And hey, the girl gets her win, so I'm down for that. And she is unnervingly creepy. There's some dialogue here and there which I do think is a little too heavy-handed, but that's kind of superficial. It doesn't nebulate the good qualities of it. I like this one a lot. Again, Beyond's pretty damn consistent. I'd want to give this a B as well. Yeah, you know what? I put it above Ozzy's Dungeon in this case, to be real with you. Yeah, Dream Girl, I just think it was so fun and so spooky, creepy. Yeah, it just checked a lot more boxes for me. It's more memorable to me than Ozzy's. Again, might be a hot take. Live and Let Dive. Yeah, again, totally solid, on par with the two segments we just talked about. It just depends on what freaks you out more. I wouldn't say I'm freaked out by heights, in terms of like when I'm seeing it in a movie. If it's in real life, then yeah, it's good reason to be afraid. If I'm in a plane and I'm jumping out, that's something I'm never doing for my life. I don't care to do that. Not a thrill seeker like that. But within the confines of this short, it's very effective. Where you get that collision, they're falling from the plane, then you get those wacky aliens. The CGI is not perfect, but you know what, it works, especially because their anatomy is so insane. It's like the survival story. It's like Hunger Games, practically, where all these friends are trying to run through this orange orchard, which is such an inspired choice, and it's in the day. I think that's great. I love that. And ultimately, no one makes it. There's a guy who's abducted in the UFO. Then you gotta wonder how did his recording get back to Earth? Whatever, not a big deal. Again, these movies no longer care about how these tapes are rounded up, so fine. But it's not my favorite of all of them, but it is very good. I do prefer Dream Girl and Stork over it, but I do like it. It is great. I'd say above Suicide Bid. Cool. All right. Fur Babies is the oddball of this movie, but I do think it is my... Is it my favorite? It might have been pegged down a little bit. I think it was my favorite upon initial viewing, but I might like Dream Girl and Stork more, but not Live and Let Dive quite as much. Yeah, Fur Babies is a ton of fun. It just doesn't feel as much sci-fi as everything else does. More in terms of like a mad scientist sort of deal, but barely. It's very loose. But yeah, I like that idea of just this mundane woman, and she's got this seedy secret, you know. I think that was fun. And then that slow buildup of what do these people become after they're captured. You see them in a cage, you see dog parts grafted onto them, and then you see people who are full form into the fur baby thing, and that was a great reveal. I love that a lot. Yeah, you know, I'd put this above Stork. I would put this above Ozzy's Dungeon. Yeah, you know, I retract. I'd say above Dream Girl as well. Yeah, again, all good. Every single Beyond thing, other than the wraparound, is in B. So that's pretty damn good. Stowaway. I didn't like this one the first time I saw it. I wasn't really too sure what to think about it because it's so tame. And there's not a ton going on. But again, upon rewatching it, I liked it more and more. It aged so well over the year that it's been out. I like this one a lot. I wish it got more attention. I think it's the quietness and the subtlety of it that really helps it to succeed. Yeah, and the fact that it's really just one character as the focus. It's kind of an intimate character study about her flaws, her intricacies, her broken family and all of that, and just this relentless pursuit for answers, I think, is really interesting. And then, of course, she gets on the UFO, it takes off, and that, remember I mentioned with shredding how there are two segments here which give you fate worse than death. This is the second one. The idea that this poor woman is trapped on this vessel, and every time this vessel hops like to light speed, light years away, she gets all busted up and she gets rebuilt. Sure, and she's alive, but with DNA that is not human, so she looks more and more crazy and bizarre and alien-like as she goes. And every time the ship takes off, she looks worse and worse and worse. And she can't die. So you're like, how long is this going to go? It's just going to go for a few more minutes? Is it going to go for months? How far away is its destination? Is it, like, light years, as I've said. We don't know. How long is this journey, right? How many times is she gonna get all busted up? Is she gonna be herself the whole way, just suffering with every death or every collision within the ship? Man, like, that's more scary than what was proposed in Shredding. So, yeah, this one, again, a very earned ending. It makes sense. And just that dread of how she chose science over her family, and this is what she gets, right? But pragmatically, it works. I like this ending a lot. I like the whole segment a lot. I'd say between Dreamgirl and Ozzy's Dungeon, I think it's really, really cool. And I wish people would talk about it more. So now we move on to the latest entry, and the reason why we're doing this whole tier list at all, VHS Halloween. That's a movie that just came out, I think, a month ago, a little under a month ago, and I only watched it once, so if I'm a little dodgy on details, then forgive me on that. First thing we have is a wraparound. Again, it does not care about tying all the segments together. I don't care. That is fine. You have Diet Phantasma, right? Yeah, so everyone's testing out, this lab is testing this drink on a whole bunch of test subjects. I think they're prisoners, and some of them blow up, some of them fall to pieces, some of them get possessed, then blow up, they start killing each other. It always has adverse effects, but they finally land on a winner when there's a little girl who gets possessed by apparently a ghost, and we learned that they intended to manufacture these drinks, and I guess it's like, I likened it to like an MK Ultra thing. If they can befriend the ghosts, put the ghosts in the cans, and then have people drink it and get possessed by the ghost, then the people obey them. I don't know. Again, nice ambiguity. But at the same time, I wish it was more different than what we got as a wraparound in 85, where you got the lab test thing, right? That was with Rory and all that. That's right, yeah. So I wish they would have done something more different. Maybe this would be a better wraparound for something like, I don't know, Beyond or 85. It could have been better in one of those. It's not as Halloween-y as it could be. I mean, yeah, it's Ghost in a can, it's hokey and stuff like that, but it just feels a little off with the rest of the segments. But it's good. It's fine. It's hokey and stuff. I enjoy it enough. It's average. It's totally fine. Again, I've only watched this movie once, so it's hard to judge them against segments I've seen like 10 times, right? So, tough one. Above Slumber Party, above Abduction for sure. I got two abductions next to each other. That's cute. That was not planned. Above God of Death, it is consistent at least, but below Dreamkill. Yeah, I don't love watching Dreamkill, but it is objectively better than Giant Phantasma. I can't read that. It's too small. And then we got Coochie Coochie Coo. I'm not sure what the popular consensus is on this movie and its segments yet, but it looks like this one's drawing quite a bit of ire for certain robot reasons I won't get into. I did notice that while watching. I was like, wait, is that picture AI? And I kind of just let that drop out. And I'm like, wow, yeah, it was, because I saw the public outroar on that. But anyways, as for this segment itself, I am able to separate that one little instance of robot interference with everything else. This was my favorite segment in the whole thing, because it's so freaking bizarre as a creepy story. Again, it leads into the cryptid thing a tad. And it's just a classic, let's go into the scary, spooky house together and see what happens. And, oh man, the prosthetic work, the makeup was so... it's vomit-inducing. It was so wild. And the fact that it's, like, baby influence gives it this whole tier of uncanniness. So, hard to say, because I just saw these, and only once. I'll probably rewatch it soon, because I did like this movie. Again, pretty balanced like Beyond, though I do think Beyond was better, but this one was pretty streamlined. As for Coochie Coochie Coo, I don't want to keep saying that, I'd put that, again, currently, I'd want to put it somewhere on the B level. I think B is good. I'd put that above Suicide Bit. I'm going to hop ahead. Dreamgirl, Stowaway. I do think I like Stowaway just a little better. Between Stowaway and Ozzy's Dungeon is good. We'll finally separate those two. There we go. What do I mean by finally? I just put Stowaway here. I don't know what I'm talking about. Okay. Then this one, which I cannot pronounce. I don't think anyone can. This one was totally blah to me. It just felt like a generic ghost story. You have that very cliche opening of, you're in prison, tell us what happened, and then it flashes back. I didn't care about this one at all. It was just a nothing burger segment to me. And I'm not too big in the ghost thing, I'll be honest. I'm not too into the paranormal stuff. It's just not really my bag. I feel like that genre, there's nothing really much more to do with it. Yeah, this one's just kind of nothing. Again, nothing wrong with it. It's just I don't care. I don't feel either way. There's not much I remember about it, really. It didn't catch my eye. This one was hard to watch, but I did have fun watching it. Fun Size. It's kind of playing off FNAF, Poppy Playtime, mascot horror, I think the genre is called. You got these trick-or-treaters. They take more than what they're allowed to from a candy bowl, and the candy bowl sucks them into this factory of sorts, or teleports them. I don't think it's an alternate dimension. I think they just go to a different place. And then the main mascot dude, who is called Fun Size, he runs them through these volleys of conveyor belts that specifically like chop them up, dice them up, piece by intricate piece, and coats them in chocolate. Oh god, yeah, this one made me want to throw up the most out of every single segment in this franchise. This one was very, very, very personal for reasons I think you know. But that being said, it was good. It was well done. It was meant to be goofy. It was meant to be silly. It succeeded tenfold in that. I don't enjoy watching it as much, not because of the cringe factor necessarily, but I wish it focused more on Fun Size himself and his little chocolate dude friend, whatever the hell that was. I would have wished they leaned more into those designs, because they were wacky and fun. Like when his hand got knocked off, it launched out confetti and another hand took its place. I would have liked more a slapstick like that. That would have been really great. And the humor was fine. It worked well enough for me. It was mainly gross out humor. But more quips would have been good, like intelligently put together ones I would have liked. So it was just fine. It was okay. I'd say not quite total copy level for me. Yeah, I'd say it's like on Dreamkill level. I know it's good, it's just not what I prefer to watch because there's some cringe or it's a little too gross. More gross than I think is necessary, overindulgent. The Dian Phantasma we just talked about. Again, I just watched these. I know I've said that a fuck ton of times, I'm sorry. I'd put it above... No, I'd put it below God of Death in terms of just raw concept. I would put it above Abduction for sure, though. Okay, yeah, that's a pretty easy C tier. Alright, last two here. Kid Print. Yeah, this one's a D tier for sure, for me. A lot of people were discomforted by the content, where you got the serial killer who's abducting children and adults, anyone who's partaking in trick-or-treating because he wasn't able to himself. I actually like that idea. I think that works really well. My issue was the directing style. It way too much hopped between what's happening, what happened, what's going to happen. It just kept flipping too much. Like, every 5 seconds, it goes to a different timeline. Well, not a different timeline, but a different period in time would be more accurate. To the point where I just kept getting lost in the story. I just kept forgetting what character experienced what, or went through this, or believed, or thought that, or did this. It was a mess the way that it was put together. And I get it, it worked for some people, but for me, I'm like, there has to be a more coherent way. I'm really just not a fan of any movie or any story which tells that story out of order. I see no reason why you can't just tell it linearly. If you try breaking it up and flipping things around too much, it just comes off as pretentious and heavy-handed. So I really just don't enjoy watching this one. I think the story's interesting, but it's hard to enjoy because of the way it's pieced together. Like, I think I've said this on the channel before, I do not like anything Christopher Nolan has ever done, because of his directing style and because everything's so non-linear. And I just think that, I do think that's a conceited way to tell a story personally. Just tell it straight. Why not? We get the order of events a little easier. That being said, again, easy D tier. I'd put it above Techno God because I like the story more. More above Parallel Monsters because it wasn't heavy-handed plot-wise, just directing-wise. Gawkers was just lame. I actually almost feel like I could put that lower. I'd put Kid Print below Dante the Great. Because at least Dante's got like a so bad it's good quality to it. I don't know, it's goofy fun, I suppose. Last but not least, we have Home Haunt. This one was actually pretty cool. I did like this one. It combined a lot of cliches, but to make something that was pretty original. Like, you have kid who's disillusioned with an old-time hobby of theirs. You have a relic in a thrift store that you just don't fuck with. You have, like, old Americana in the form of, like, you know, Svengoolie or Elvira, like Vincent Price era stuff. So that was a whole lot of fun. And it combined it in a nice little package. Nothing that was like a high or low. Not a super favorite of mine, but I did dig it. I thought this was a ton of fun. How did this end? That's right. It was kind of did that Cabin in the Woods thing where, well, the very doorway we're looking at crawls up and becomes its own monster. That's always good shit. Yeah, again, just a goofy thrill ride. A lot of excellent deaths in there. In that witches massacre going down Halloween Lane, whatever. That was great. This one I think will go up for me, but for now I can only go based on what I can barely recall because I've only seen it once. I really need to see something 2 or 3 times to really say how I feel about it, I think. This one was really delightful. I'd say I'd put that in a B tier. Second Honeymoon, I don't know. Second Honeymoon's a top dog for me. Like, I remember it from way back when, so I don't know if I could properly put Home Haunt up there. I'd say I'd put it at a comfortable... you know what? High C is not bad. I'd say High C is fair. And then if it moves at all, it would be just barely, right? It would be right in that vicinity somewhere. So I think that's a good placeholder. So that being said, we did it. That is every single segment that is in the VHS movies and the frameworks, except for one segment that was meant for viral but was dropped. Again, Dead Meat talked about that a little bit. I know nothing else about it. But yeah, I think this list is pretty solid for me, and pretty generous too. I only have 2 F tiers. If there were any segments I really disliked, I was at least able to find a redeeming quality about them, so I could understand why people do like them. But for Bone Storm and Vicious Circles, there's nothing. There's nothing I like about them. I cannot see why people would enjoy them. If you do, for some reason, enjoy Vicious Circles especially, let me know down in the comments. I'd love to hear any of your opinions. If you really liked one here, if you really hated one here, or if you thought one that I really like was just okay, I want to hear it. That's the thing I love about this franchise. Everyone's can pick and choose their favorites. It really is a delight because of that. It's a nice grab bag. It's a trick-or-treat bucket, if I might. So yeah, that's my list. I'm actually very hungry, so I'm going to do something about that. And all that being said, I hope you enjoyed this little podcast. So again, give me some of your favorites and least favorites of VHS in the comments. And I hope to see you again soon. I don't know what's coming up next, but as I always say, I always come up with something. So till next time, hope you had a happy Halloween. Hope you're enjoying our Dia de los Muertos, and catch you around the bend.
That's all there is. There isn't any more.